Good morning in Missouri. It is Thursday, January 11th, 2018.
Today's the day it starts nice and ends not.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, it feels great outside.
I'm going to take your job. Look out, Timmy.
There you go. You want the clicker? It's hers. Yeah, it feels great outside. Felt great last night and still is already still in the upper 50s. We actually have risen in temperatures over the last couple of hours overnight. However, winter weather advisories go into effect here in just a couple of hours and ends at midnight because of the threat of some ice in that forecast. Right now, temperatures out the door are in the 50s. It's very mild, very comfortable outside. Won't be by this afternoon. That day planner doesn't look great. 34 by noon. We're down to 28 with a chance for freezing rain this afternoon. I'll have the full details coming up here in a few minutes.
This morning, reaction is pouring in after Governor Eric Greitens and his wife Sheena acknowledged a year-long investigation by KMOV in St. Louis that found the governor had an extramarital affair before he was elected.
The St. Louis station says it spoke to the ex-husband of the woman involved in the affair. The man says Greitens promised to blackmail his former wife with naked pictures if she ever spoke of the affair. According to KMOV, the ex-husband's attorney says they've been in contact with law enforcement officers. In a statement, the governor's attorney, James Bennett, says Governor Greitens has seen KMOV's report and says it contains multiple false allegations.
In part, Governor Greitens' lawyer says, quote, the claim that this nearly 3-year-old story has generated or should generate law enforcement interest is completely false. There was no blackmail, and that claim is false.
In a joint statement, Eric and Sheena Greitens said, a few years ago, before Eric was elected governor, there was a time when he was unfaithful in our marriage. This was a deeply personal mistake. Eric took responsibility, and we dealt with this together and honestly and privately. While we never would have wished for this pain in our marriage or the pain that this has caused others, with God's mercy, Sheena has forgiven, and we have emerged stronger. We understand that there will be some people who cannot forgive, but for those who can find it in your heart, Eric asks for your forgiveness, and we are grateful for your love and your compassion and your prayers.
Sheena Greitens also issued a statement individually. In it, she said, quote, we have a loving marriage and an awesome family. Anything beyond that is between us and God. I want the media and those who wish to peddle gossip to stay away from me and my children, end quote. The attorney representing the ex-wife has not yet commented. Jordan?
In light of this new report about the governor, it's worth noting that a 50-state review by the Associated Press found about a third of all legislative chambers do not require lawmakers to receive training about what constitutes sexual harassment, how to report it, and what consequences it carries. Now, the AP also found that only a minority of legislative bodies conduct external investigations into complaints, with most others entrusting lawmakers or staff to look into allegations against colleagues. That has contributed to a culture in some capitals in which the targets of sexual harassment have been reluctant to come forward with complaints until recently. The Missouri House updated its policies after former Speaker John Deal Jr. resigned in 2015 while admitting to sending sexually suggestive text messages to a House intern. Among other things, the new policy requires a private attorney to be hired to investigate any sexual harassment allegations involving lawmakers. Guys?
Well, on a federal level, Paul Ryan, he enacted that House members in the nation's capital needed to have this training.
It's been an ongoing discussion for quite a while now. Thank you, Jordan. Before the news of Greitens' affair broke, the governor gave the State of the State address last night. Greitens focused on cutting taxes and decreasing regulations. One of the governor's goals is to bring more jobs to Missouri. He says he believes deregulation is one way to do that. Greitens also announced he wants to cut taxes, creating the, quote, boldest state tax reform in America.
And with your help, we will lower taxes for working families and make it easier for businesses to come to Missouri and create jobs. And we will do it in a way that is fiscally sound, maintains our state's AAA credit rating, and does not burden our children.
Republican Representative Sarah Walsh of Ashland says putting money into people's pockets allows them to spend it on exactly what they need.
Most people here in Missouri, most Missourians, I know from personal experience growing up, it was paycheck to paycheck. And so when you get $50 more or $100 more, I mean, that's a trip to the grocery store. That's a utility bill. That's, in some cases, a car payment or part of a car payment.
Governor Greitens says he'll lay out a detailed tax cut plan next week. This is the first time Greitens has promised a specific plan meant to cut taxes. Taxes weren't the only big topic in the governor's speech yesterday. He also touted efforts to shrink the size of state government. He says his administration is removing 1 out of every 3 regulatory requirements. He also touted the sale of 4 state airplanes and 30 cars to save more than $500,000 combined. He says he'll also save $3,600 in printing costs by putting the state budget online.
It's customary
for the governor to present his proposed budget when delivering the state of the state, though that was something the governor did not do last night. Democrats highlighted this in their response to the governor's speech. Democrats also questioned ethical concerns.
Governor Greitens markets himself as a political outsider dedicated to cleaning up state government. During his first year in office, however, Governor Greitens' administration has been stained by ethical failings, disdain for the law, and a complete lack of transparency.
Democrats have filed a package of legislation to improve accountability and transparency in state government. They say it would make dark money donations for the governor public. Later today, Democrats will join Not One Penny for a stop on the nationwide Repeal the Trump Tax tour, demanding the repeal of the recently passed tax bill. Democrats say the new bill gives tax breaks for millionaires, billionaires, and wealthy corporations at the expense of working families. The 100-day tour will hold events around the country. Its next stop is Las Vegas.
Also at the Capitol, the Missouri House advanced a proposal that would ban lobbyist gifts to lawmakers with a few exceptions. It was only a voice vote. It still needs another vote to move to the Senate. The bill's sponsor says his goal is to limit lobbyist influence on lawmakers through expensive gifts. Lobbyists could still host catered events with free food if all lawmakers and statewide elected office holders are invited.
Columbia police officers are investigating after a woman was shot off of Columbia's Eastwood Drive early this morning.
KMUH's Chelsea Haynes joins us live from the scene with more. Chelsea?
Around 1:15 this morning, Columbia police responded to this apartment complex right behind me. When police arrived to the scene, they say they found a woman with life-threatening gunshot wounds. Within the last hour, the police have updated me and told me that the victim is now in stable condition. A resident of the apartment complex told KMUH News that police told her they believe the cause of the incident was domestic, and a resident told us that we saw a student, a KMUH News reporter on the scene, saw a police officer carrying a gun away from the scene. Police are still on the scene investigating, and a forensic team is also now on the scene. Now, at this time, police say they do not have any suspects, but believe the scene is safe. We'll continue to send you updates as the morning goes on. For now, reporting live in Columbia, Chelsea Haynes, KMUH News.
The death toll in California's mudslides now stands at 17. Crews are continuing to clean up the mud and debris. At least 17 people are still reported missing. Officials say more than 500 crew members are engaged in the search and rescue efforts. At least 100 houses have been destroyed and another 300 damaged.
House Majority Whip Steve Scalise is in fair condition and resting comfortably after some additional surgery. Scalise was seriously wounded last June when a gunman opened fire at a softball practice. Scalise was struck in the hip, which shattered bone and damaged internal organs. He has had several surgeries since then. President Donald Trump will host a roundtable on prison reform with the Office of American Innovation today at the White House. A White House spokesman says the discussion will center on ways to equip nonviolent prisoners with skills and opportunities that will prevent them from ending back up in prison. The discussions began at Camp David this past weekend. U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions is also scheduled to attend.
One of the children injured in the deadly Texas church shooting is scheduled to be released from the hospital today. Ryland Ward was shot 5 times when a gunman opened fire inside the Sutherland Springs church, killing 26 people. The 5-year-old stepmother and 2 sisters were among the people killed last November. Members of the Sutherland Springs community will welcome Ryland home as he passes through town on a fire truck.
President Trump once again blasted the Russian probe, calling any claims that his campaign colluded with Russia a, quote, Democrat hoax. The president faced questions in the investigation during a joint press conference at the White House Wednesday. He again called it a witch hunt, saying it had cast a phony cloud over his administration. President Trump signed a bill aimed at detecting opioids before they can enter the U.S. The Interdict Act was passed with bipartisan support. The law will provide Customs and Border agents with screening technology that can detect dangerous drugs, including the deadly synthetic opioid fentanyl. Portable screening devices will be given to agents at ports, border crossings, mail facilities, and in customs labs. In St. Louis, police are continuing to investigate the death of an 8-year-old girl shot while she was sleeping yesterday morning. The bullet struck 8-year-old Aneria Page in the thigh. Her father, Eddie Page, says the bullets came from the backyard and flew into the back rooms of the home. The parents and 4 other children were home at the time of that shooting. Police say whoever did this likely targeted that house.
One former Columbia public school teacher has announced her decision to run for a seat on the CPS Board of Education. Susan Blackburn says she wants to continue her legacy by pushing several educational initiatives. She says she'll rely on her experience as a speech pathologist and reading specialist to push district-wide literacy.
So they've really set a high bar for closing the achievement gap and working on equity with students. What I would like to do is bring that teacher's perspective and that perspective of having worked with students for the last 29 years to those conversations that the board has.
Blackburn told KOMU she's excited about new statewide legislation for public schools.
The 25th Annual Columbia Values Diversity Celebration is scheduled to take place later this morning. The event will bring members of the community together for a breakfast in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The program aims to highlight the diversity of the community and includes the presentation of the 21st Annual Columbia Values Diversity Awards. The event begins at 7:30 this morning at the Holiday Inn Expo Center.
Diet Coke fans, listen up. The soda giant's getting a makeover. Coming up, a first look at new can designs and some new flavors that are coming along with it.
And there's a big divide in temperatures in the Midwest. We're going to be talking about a big time cool down that may have some freezing rain in that forecast for this afternoon.
But first, a live look over the Lake of the Ozarks. 5:11 on your Thursday morning.